after the new constitution in 1976, we began to use universal adult suffrage, and we went to the polls to elect for ourselves for the first time constituency representatives to form what would be called ministerial government. So voting is not new. But the Patriots saw that it was important, as this election is indeed a critical election in the history of our country, that we armed our country, our young people, our middle-aged people, everybody, with all of the necessary information necessary to vote. Why? Because we don't want to go to the poll the traditional way. We want to go well informed. We want to question those things that we used to take for granted. We want to see to it that our candidates are vetted, that they are not slipping in the House of Assembly unprepared or not ready to represent us. Because guess what? We cannot get change by doing the same thing. So in order to secure a better democracy, in order to have a more vibrant House of Assembly, the Patriots believe that voters must go to the polls well informed to vote in this upcoming general election. So one of the first things that we looked at on the Patriot Hour was why vote? And that's an interesting question, because I've heard many Turks and Caicos Islanders talk about their discouragement from voting. They talk about how they're not interested in voting. And I want to throw that question out just for a few minutes to the listening public. Is it important to vote? Yes, we talked about it before, but I want to revisit it. Are there still people out there in the Turks and Caicos Islands who are saying, I'm not voting, I don't need to vote? If you're one of them, you can call in at 941-8550. Now, if you believe it's important to vote, and you're one of them, you can call in as well, 941-8550. And I'm quite sure that the listening public would love to hear your opinion. I sure would like to hear it. And then I'll give you my 5 cents. But I don't want to give you my 5 cents on that until I hear yours. Because sometimes, after people give our opinion on public radio, it may discourage a caller from calling in and saying how they feel. So yes, the first question of the day on Patriot Hour: why should we vote? Yes, Turks and Caicos Islands, why should we vote? Now, I remember we had a very, very vibrant show, discussion and on that topic, because we realized that, a lot of people out there are discouraged about voting, but we believe that voting is a very, very important right of an individual. And I'm going to say, I believe that. I'm a TCI Patriot, and the one thing with the Patriots, we are not afraid of having diverse views. So I remember a caller, I think I called in on that show and I made a contribution on the why vote. I remember a caller calling in and giving me their 5 cents on that topic. But I'll give you my 5 cents on that topic. Why vote? Let me say this to the people of this country, and you may disagree with me, but from the time I could remember, every election you have a group of Turks and Caicos Islanders who say, I ain't voting and I ain't going to the poll. And I almost believe them, because, there's so many reasons why people decide not to go to the poll or why voting doesn't make sense. But I realize that the culture of this country, when you see that bell rings for election, or when that date is announced that election is in the air, and there's an election date in sight, all those people, most of those people who tell me they ain't going to the poll and they ain't checking and they ain't worrying but this and that, I often see those same people. Let me say in my TI accent, my TI talk, I just see them same people. You rally up, get excited, get vexed, put on the paraphernalia shirt, put the sticker on their car, on their house, and they go into the poll, because they realize that this is a responsibility of every citizen to go to the poll. And one of the things I tell people in voting is that whether you vote or not, you're going to have an opinion. You want to know why I vote? Let me tell you why I vote. I vote because being Jas or being who I am, I know that if there's something going on in this country that does not make sense, Jas Walkin going to have his say. If there's something that is going on that I think makes sense, and I see people fighting against it, Jas Walkin is going to have his say. So knowing that I'm going to have a say regardless, I'm not going to take the risk of the wrong man being elected and me sitting down home grumbling about the bad representation that I have. I vote because I appreciate the power that my vote has. I vote because I understand that as a citizen of this country, it is imperative that I use the most powerful thing a citizen has to determine the future of his country. And I go to the polls and I vote. I vote because my vote is my voice. I vote because at the end of the day, I know that at the end of it all, Turks and Caicos Islanders have been given the right that many citizens all over the world have been given to determine the future of their country, and they decide whether they're going to go forward or they're going to stay where they are, or some may say go backward. So that's why I vote. Now, you may have other reasons for voting, but I believe that it is a right that we ought to exercise. Now, young people may say, okay, I don't see any changes. Correct. Some people may say, you vote for promises, and promises don't fall true, or promises don't come true, so what's the purpose of voting? Not voting is not going to make the promise any more real. Not voting is not going to address health care. Not voting is not going to address the number of issues we have in this country. So for me, not participating in the process does not solve the problem. And remember this, Turks and Caicos Islands. For every Turks and Caicos Islander who decides not to participate in that process, you leave room for somebody who chooses to participate, who might not necessarily participate in the same interest or in the same manner of which you would have. So you give up your right, or you give up your stake of claim to the direction of your country. So those are my thoughts on why vote. Now, a couple of months ago, I wrote an article. I think Jamel Robinson had put an audio version to it called "The Power of Your Vote." And I really, really enjoyed reading that article because I sat down and I thought about what exactly a vote really, really entails. And looking at the history of voting in the world, especially for the descendants of Africans, we were the children of slaves, and we were denied many, many basic human rights. And one of those human rights was the right to vote. And that is something that I really, really, really want to understand. There were people before you who never had the opportunity to vote. In days gone by, especially after the abolishment of slavery, I'll give you a little bit of history here. Plantation owners were the ones that had a right to vote for representatives in the assembly. And after those planters would elect their peers, they would make decisions that would affect their well-being, whereas the slaves were given no sort of consideration. But when slavery was abolished, slaves or ex-slaves were still not given full adult suffrage because voting now was relegated or reserved to persons who had property. And of course, ex-slaves had no property. So you still had a serious case of voter disenfranchisement. But thankfully, after the attainment of universal adult suffrage throughout the West Indies, throughout British Caribbean, you had many, many more countries allowing people of all classes to vote. Now, Most countries in the Caribbean, you have one vote for one single ballot return. But since 2012, in the Turks and Caicos Islands, we have been given 6 votes. Now, this is not the first time that the United Kingdom has experimented with our multi-vote ballots in the election. I think the election of 1988 and the election of 1991, we had the multi-ballot voting. But in 2012, they introduced the at-large voting, where you have 5 votes for all island candidates, for 5 all island candidates, and you had your single constituency votes. Now, many Turks and Caicos Islanders may be saying to themselves, why do we have all of these votes? But let me tell you something. There are countries in the Caribbean that are envious of Turks and Caicos right now, because you have an opportunity to return 6 individuals to your parliament. I've heard many times Turks and Caicos Islanders talk about how they wish they could have voted for the leader of their party, or for this member of parliament from another constituency, because they were so pleased or impressed with their potential as a candidate. But you were denied that opportunity under the old system, because you had the 13 or 15 constituency and you had one vote to return one member of parliament to the House of Assembly for your constituency. But now we have 6. And like I said in that article, 6 votes is a lot of power. And what does that mean for us as Turks and Caicos Islanders? As I said before, you have 6 opportunities to choose the direction of your country. And because 6 votes is a lot of power, I want you to handle that power very responsibly. The number to call is 941-8550, 941-8550. So the power of your vote. I discussed previously the reason why I vote, but one of the things I want you all to understand in this country, we're not just voting for voting's sake. Let us not make it an exercise, simply an exercise of democracy. Rather, let us look at voting as a God-given opportunity to choose our destiny. Let us look at voting as an opportunity to write the next chapter in our country's history. Let us look at voting as an opportunity to correct some mistakes that have been made in the past and to sort of rewrite the story. Because trust me, my fellow Turks and Caicos Islanders, our story is not yet complete. We have to put the finishing touches on this story called the Turks and Caicos Islands. And one part of putting the finishing touches on this story is the exercise of our democracy. So your vote has a lot of power. Now, we also did a show talking about the branches of government, because we wanted you to understand excuse me, we wanted you to understand the different branches of government and the roles of different sectors of our government. And I really enjoyed that show. I think we had the Deputy Governor, Her Excellency, the Honorable Anya Williams, and we had the Speaker of the House, Mr. The Honorable Robert Hall. And I was well informed, and I was empowered after that episode, because a few things were cleared up for me. Now, I spent 10 years teaching history and social studies, and oftentimes I even threw in a little civics and religion during that 10 years. So I'm quite familiar with the social studies and the civics part of the branches of government, but it's always interesting to learn about the intricacies of exactly how government works. And for the record, I want to remind Turks and Caicos Islanders that there are 3 main branches of government. We have the executive branch, which entails of the governor, His Excellency the Governor, the Premier and his cabinet. And we have the legislative branch, which is the House of Assembly, which which encompasses the 15 elected members of parliament and the 4 appointed members, one by the majority party with the party with the majority, one by the party with the minority called the opposition, one and 2 appointees by His Excellency the Governor. So those 4 members, including the 15, are the 19 members of the House of Assembly, and of course we have the Speaker, who is also nominated or appointed, so to speak. So that is the legislative branch. Then we have the judiciary, which is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Courts and the Magistrates Courts and the Courts of Appeal and the Attorney General and all of that. That they make up the judiciary. But when I reflect back on that show regarding the branches of government, several things were clarified for me. First and foremost, Turks and Caicos Islands. Within the executive branch of government, we have the elected cabinet, the elected branch, which is called the cabinet, because according to our constitution, the cabinet is formed when the elected member of the House of Assembly can demonstrate to His Excellency the Governor that he or she commands the respect of the majority of elected members. That such person becomes the premier. And after that person communicate to the Governor in writing that he does have such a majority, that person then puts together what is called a cabinet from among the elected members or appointed members of the House of Assembly. There's something very important to note here. According to our Constitution, let me say this again, the Constitution does not say that the party with the majority of seats have to form the government. It does not say that the leader of the party that has the majority of seats has to become the premier. It says that the elected member, whether he was the leader of the party or not, or deputy leader, whatever position he had prior to the election, it does not matter. It says the leader, the elected member, who communicates to His Excellency the Governor that he commands the support of the majority, which means that he has convinced the majority of elected members to join him or her to form a government or a cabinet. That person's become the premier. So, that being said, we need to understand that government is formed after the election, not before. So the tradition of candidates fighting for which post they're gonna get and sitting down and debating who's gonna be minister of this, minister of that, they better slow their roll. Somebody say lock it down. That's not how this party work. The Constitution says that after the general elections, elected members form government, and the opposite side is also true for the opposition leader. The leader who demonstrates that they have the support of the minority of the elected members, excuse me, those that are inside the House of Assembly becomes the leader of the opposition. Now, another point that I noted when it came down to branches of government was that in the executive branch itself, the governor chairs cabinet. The deputy governor is a non-voting member of cabinet, and she articulated that cabinet make decision by consensus. Now, I'm not going to get into much details of that, but that is a very important thing to note. The public service is the administrative arm of the government. The cabinet, which is made up of elected members, they set policy for this country. That policy is carried out by the public service. Too many times I find in our country, we are blaming and criticizing public servants for things that they are not responsible for. I ain't talking about work ethic and work attitude and customer service. Of course, as a public servant, because I used to be a public servant myself, or I should say my days are winding down now. But customer service is a must, yes. Carrying out your task and responsibility is a must. Following your job description is a must. But the responsibility for policy making does not lie with the public service. The responsibility of policy making lies with the cabinet, which is formed by the elected members of the House of Assembly. Why am I saying that? I want you to understand that any policy that you see is not being implemented in this country or not being adopted in this country, it's not the permanent secretary's fault, it's not the public servant's fault. It is the responsibility of cabinet to implement policy and see to it that the policies are carried out effective immediately. That being said, there's also this myth since 2012 that under our current constitution that permanent secretaries have equal power with the ministers. And the deputy governor cleared that up. The deputy governor clearly stated, and if I'm misquoting her, I stand to be corrected, but I have a good memory. And besides, I went to the public service ordinance and confirmed the comments that was made. The permanent secretaries are bounded by the ordinance to carry out the initiatives of the minister of the ministry. If there's a conflict, there is an avenue to which that conflict can be worked out. So Turks and Caicos Islanders, hear me good. Do not let no minister trick you and say that I could not get certain things done because my permanent secretary was stopping me. That is a bold-faced lie. My former vice principal used to say the devil is a liar, and the truth is not in that. Okay? That is contrary to the public service ordinance and the laws of this country. Permanent secretaries are responsible for carrying out the mandate of the minister they are working with. So do not let no elected minister trick you and tell you that they couldn't get certain things done because the PS was the hell out. Hold their feet to the fire. That's the song that I asked Afro to play on the show a couple of weeks ago. Hold their feet to the fire. Don't let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it because a lot of trickery and blaming and transfer of responsibilities have been taking place in this country. It's one of the most frustrating things in TCI. You go to the permanent secretary in the public service, they tell you go to the minister. I don't deal with policy. You go to the minister tell you go to the PS in the public service because that's all that they reach. It's not true. Every single one of them lists the responsibilities that they're responsible for, and we as a people have to stop letting people mamagai us and put wool over our eyes. We've got to hold people's feet to the fire. If you have a job to do, hold them accountable for the job. That is why Turks and Caicos Islands is the way it is today. We have allowed people to trick us, and we as a people must learn to read and research our laws, my people. I love you, Turks and Caicos Islands, but I got to be hard on you today. We do not read enough in this country. You want to know why they have a problem with the likes of me? Because my baby can read. Mama didn't let her boy grow up to be fooled. Mama said, Jas, learn to read because, listen, she said, people will always try to judge the book by the cover. They will, they will look at you and they will see a neck on the side and see you shaking and they'll think you fool. She said, but when you open your mouth, she said, you speak sense and you know your stuff. She said, Jas, always do homework. In fourth form, I asked her, after placing first in class, I said, how can I continue to be successful? She said, do your homework. So, as a people, I am pleading with you, Turks and Caicos Islands, that even after the Patriots voter education drive is coming to an end today, do your homework. Don't let people shove anything down your throat. I always say this to our people. What a man say to you in your ears can be misinterpreted or be opinionated to serve his needs. But what you read on the book, that is why I have several copies of the Constitution on every single device I have. Because whenever people are quoting and talking things related to law and ordinances, I check the books. Because what pilots say, what is written is written. Okay? The next interesting thing that came out of that was the legislature. Now, all my life I was told that based on the numbers in the House of Assembly, that the opposition have their say and the government have their way. And that has been the slogan of many, many, many legislative councils. But never did I know until I had to go to Section 71 of the Turks and Caicos Island Constitution that outlines that every member of the House of Assembly has the power and the opportunity to bring private members' bill to the House of Assembly that is not classified as a money bill. Now, what is a money bill? A money bill, Turks and Caicos Islands, refers to a piece of legislation that calls for a new tax and on the government revenues or adding expense to the government expenditure. Outside of a money bill, any private member can bring a legislation to the House of Assembly. So what does that mean? We have a caller. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Yeah. All right, listen. I know you hear me now, right?
I can't hear.
You in? Hello?
Hold on, caller. Caller, we're having some technical problems here. I can't hear you. I want to make sure I can hear you. Don't hang up. Just give us a second. Hello? Yes, caller. Go on. Hello? Hello, caller? Okay, caller, I'm sorry. Please call back. I apologize for that. We had a little technical problem here, but I was unable to hear you. Yes. I wanted to talk about private members' legislation. Hello?
Hey.
Hello, caller. Yes, you're on the air.
Yeah. Listen, I used to be looking at the election every year, and for the last, from I can say 5 years old, I was living in this country, and I used to be doing like the music part and letting people know, well, even advertisement, like advertising these elections, different, the PNP and the PDM. So I used to be on radio, also on the street, on the back of a truck. All this culture has gone. I don't know what is going on in this country. Everybody's bringing their culture to our country. What happened to we culture? I mean, when it comes to election, this the way it should be. You got one set up in the Greece Bay area doing their thing. Blue Hills doing their thing. 5 Key doing their thing. But it seems like the native born people from the country ain't getting together. Man, look here, we got to do better than this. Whether it's PNP or PDM or independent or who, we still have to look in each other's eyes to the end of the day and live together. It's time for us to get together and say, what's love got to do with it? Because we need to know. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Yes, we have to always promote unity in our country, and I endorse your sentiments, caller, about us coming together. You know, after elections is over, we are still all Turks and Caicos Islanders. But I want to get back to the point I was making about private members' bill. So after the Speaker of the House explained the workings of private members' bill in legislation, he was also asked the difference between a bill and a motion. And we know that we've been hearing a lot about private members' motion in the House of Assembly and what is the results of these motions. And from my understanding, and I stand to be corrected, a motion stimulates debate, a good discussion, just like a high school debate. And after the motion is discussed, it's over. The government can choose to do anything with the motion, or they can just choose to let the debate end in the House of Assembly. However, with a bill now, when a bill is debated in a piece of legislation, whether it be an amendment to an existing legislation or a new bill entirely establishing something new, a bill after being debated forces the member after a vote to either endorse that bill becomes law, it goes to the committee of the whole, and amendments are made and it is sent to the governor to be signed and made law. So the question that I had to begin to wonder is, why aren't there more private, members' bills brought to the House of Assembly? And, people get so sensitive about these things, but I believe that the truth is the truth. And this is not just an indictment on this opposition. It's an indictment on every opposition in the history of this country, whether it was the PNP opposition between 1995 and 2003, or it was the PDM opposition from 2003 to present. If the opportunity is there in the Constitution for you to bring legislations to the House of Assembly, then I have to say, why not? I often hear opposition leaders, past and present, talk about all the things that they want to do when they become the government. And I'm saying to myself, okay, when you become the government, yes, you have the majority, you can get it done. But if you have the numbers in the House of Assembly, that creates the possibility, because remember now, when we first send the 8-7 government in opposition to the House, the comment was made that we may have a minority government because the governor has 2 appointed members. So what I'm saying is this, Turks and Caicos Islands, the kind of democracy that I'm interested in, the legislature that I'm interested in, is not one that simply says, when we get our chance, this is what we're going to do. The time for change is now. Now, if you have an idea or a piece of amendment that you think can make a difference in this country, then bring it to the House as a bill. Let the government deny the bill. Let the government go on record as to say why they cannot endorse this bill. I have heard the gratuity service charge motion discussed. I've heard conversations when I was discussing this issue with Mr. Dwayne Taylor, the national campaign chairman for the PDM, about the equal pay legislation and a number of other legislations that are being discussed. And I said, listen, I believe that the proof needs to be in the pudding. We, my generation, is not interested in which sides get credit for passing a good piece of legislation. I care not if the PNP government pass a good piece of legislation. I care not if the PDM opposition pass a good piece of legislation. The same way this country rallied behind the repeal VAT bill, this country is mature enough to rally behind any other bipartisan piece of legislation. And that's what I want people to understand in this country. We must hold all 15 elected members accountable in this country. And I hear some people complaining, oh, we are asking so much of the opposition. I'm asking so much of everybody. The elected government, I'm going to hold them accountable, and I'm going to hold the opposition accountable too, because you're on their job. And I've said this over and over again, and I'll go on record to say it again. Jasmine Salisbury Walkin is not interested in simply a change in government. He is interested in a change in governance. What does that mean? I'm interested in a change in the direction of my country. So thinking that switching big dog for monkey is all I want, you tell a lie. Turks Islanders want more in this country. We want more than simply a victory for another party, or victory for the other side, or victory for the current side. We want to see real progress in our country. So that is why we're going to do our homework. That is why we're going to hold their feet to the fire. That is why we're going to do whatever is necessary, that the next parliament in this country does not simply represent the yay and the nay, but it represents a collective group of people that have a passion for country, that have a desire for change, and that understands that Turks and Caicos people send you to the House of Assembly not to play who got the numbers game or who was on the left side or the right side, because as I said before, all the ideas are never on one side. But it is unfortunate to me that the political culture in this country have allowed us to stay so stagnant, where we simply refuse to compromise in our legislature. And that is why I laugh so much times when we talk about unity in this country. If the people we elect are not able to come together, in the US they call it reach across the aisle, for moments of national importance, then how can we talk about unity in this country? So that's my 5 cents on branches of government. I'm not going to touch much on important issues to vote on, because we've been talking about the issues in this country. I mean, especially on Real Talk, we talk about the issues in this country all the time. Okay? So That is very, very important. All right? At the end of the day, Turks and Caicos Islanders, my desire for you and our desire as a people should be to know exactly what we are going to the polls for. When we would have elected them, we need to hold their feet to the fire and make them accountable for the things that they say. Don't tell me one thing when the Constitution says something different. You're dealing with a different generation, baby. Because trust me, Jay is going to do his homework. Jay is going to go into that book called TCI Constitution Order 2011, and he's going to look for the section that speaks to the powers of an elected member. He's going to look for that section that speaks to the role of a minister or MP, and he is going to hold your feet to the fire. And that is what Turks and Caicos Islanders need to do. We are running out of time in this country. We need to put the finishing touches on our country's story. We need to do it because time is of the essence. It is very, very important that we do this. Very, very important, my fellow Turks and Caicos Islanders. So yes, I don't want no more excuses. And then when I asked the gentleman in our discussion, how was it that the repeal of that bill was able to be passed? He said, because it was bipartisan. I said, good. So are you telling me that the only bill that can be bipartisan in this country is to repeal that bill? It's unacceptable for the Progressive National Party and the PDM Party to say to this country that the only issue that they could come together on and pass in this country is to repeal that bill. They better come again, because that dog will not hunt. No, don't come with that. Do more homework. And I'm making an appeal. And by the way, let me share a story with you all. Well, I saw her today, and I told you I was shooting from the hip today. This is the Patriot Hour. It's not the no spin zone, but the director of the no spin zone is sitting in the Patriot chair. So we're talking about important issues, all right? And I want voters to understand, and this is the kind of approach I want you to go to the polls with this upcoming general election. I hear all this talk about some things that I hear the opposition talking about some ideas they have for a better country. I hear the PNP government talking about some ideas they have for a better country. Even though they in government, I don't understand that. They in government but still saying what they want to do. But anyway, let's leave that for now. And I say to myself, you've got all these dreams and ideas, but everybody focused right now is to gear up for elections. We got so much to fix in this country. And trust me, these things that we have to fix, election not going to fix it. As a matter of fact, we don't need election to fix it. It can fix now. Let me give you a little story. I'm the history teacher, so I have a lot of stories. During the election in the United States, Harry S. Truman was running for president against Dewey. And Dewey was really creeping up in the polls. Dewey had a almost double-digit point margin in the poll. Dewey was the Republican candidate. Now, Truman was the incumbent president. And so the Congress was suspended in preparation for the Democratic and Republican National Convention. So the Republican convention was first. As is the case when the incumbent is the Democrat, I think, in the White House, but whatever. And Truman sat down and he watched and listened to the Republicans beat him up. They said that they brought this legislation. They said they had so many ideas. Please excuse me. They spend their entire 4 days in convention talking about all the bills they're going to pass, all the reform they're going to do. You know what Truman did? Truman said, okay, since you all spend the last 4 days talking about all these reforms you all have in mind, all these legislation you all have in mind, since you all spend the last 4 days telling America that this president does not want to rock with this Congress, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to call the Congress back in session and tell the Congress, get to work, because we still got time. November is still 3 months away. We still got time. So, my fellow elected members of parliament, I want to say to you what Truman said to Dewey. We still got time. Do not focus your entire next 3 months on general election. It coming whether or not November, whether it's November, October, September. I doubt it in August, even though a lot of you were saying August. Whenever it coming. But we still got time. Go to the speaker, carry your bill, carry your legislation, carry your amendment, and get to work. We still got time. If you need some suggestions on what you need to work on, let me give you a few ideas. You can work on restoring civil servants gratuity ordinance that was passed in 2012 that has civil servants next year looking forward to 0% gratuity. You could work on that, and that was a promise that the incumbent government and premier made. Work on that for me. You can work on that immigration status bill, close up the loopholes in there, despite the 200 amendments made. You can work on getting the immigration status from an ordinance and put it in the Constitution. You could work on a illegal jitney ordinance. Oh, you all forgot about that, eh? Yes, and don't just work on it because of the incident that happened a few days ago. Get to work on legalizing jitney. What else? You could work on seeing to it that the traffic ordinance that speak to the taxi drivers and hotels contract that prohibits it, based on what I've been told, work on getting that ordinance enforced, because somebody's sleeping on the job. Any other ideas? Anybody have any other ordinance they could work on? Call me, 941-8550. I don't want to take up all the time, but I'm grateful there's a lot of legislation that they can get to work on. Okay? They can get to work on how they could provide some serious housing for people in this country. They could work on how they're going to assist single mothers in this country with paying some of these bills. Work on a cost of living. Work on raising our minimum wage. There's a lot of things. Get to work. We still got time. Is that a caller? No. There's a lot of things that they can work on. Turks and Caicos Islands. So Truman told the Republicans, get to work. He called the Congress back in session. And guess what? All that talk was just talk. They came back in session and Truman called their bluff. This is the kind of politics that I'm interested in this country. I don't want people who just know how to talk the talk. We need people who know how to walk the walk. So yes, today is coming towards the end of July. Monday is the 1st of August. And if the House does not dissolve in the month of August, because the Constitution simply says the Premier must give this country 35 days notice for an election, it's quite clear that you have more time in August. So get to work in August. According to the Constitution, the House has to meet every 6 weeks. It didn't say it cannot meet more than that. So go to work. Don't save your bright ideas for when you are a cabinet minister or when you are re-elected as a minister. Go to work. We want results in this country. The Patriots want results. Jas want results. Grand Turk want results. South Caicos want results. Middle Caicos want results. My God, North Caicos need results. We've been dying in North Caicos for so long. People like to ask me, Jas, how are things in North Caicos? I stop saying things dead. I tell them things past dead. The problem is government can't find nobody to do the autopsy on North Caicos. We dead long time. We need some life in this country. Bravo wants you to get to work. Every community in this country is crying out for something to be done. So my parliamentarians, my elected members, take note, I did not call the government opposition. I'm calling all 15 members, or rather 19 members of parliament, attention to the fact that you still have time. You've got time. Do not focus on election day. It's coming, baby. Trust me. The least day is coming, and take it from me. It's almost like the song say, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better watch out. I'm telling you why. TI vote is coming to town. So don't think we're sleeping. We are going to be paying attention. And if the only thing I do in this country for the next 6 months is to make Turks Island people look at voting in a different way, then my job is well done. But this country has to experience some sort of change after this election. There's still time. So you don't remember none from the Patriot Hour today. There is still time. Get to work. We did this voter education drive because we wanted this country to know that there is much work to be done. Our members of parliament have work to do. We even discussed a job description for MPs. I know they're scared for me to talk about that one, because if every civil servant have a job description, I don't know why MPs don't have none. I don't know why they don't have none, But we working on that. We got a nice job description for them. Explain exactly what a member of parliament need to be responsible for. You're getting paid enough. Go to work. We got work to do. I have no sympathy or empathy for any half-stepping member of parliament. You have work to do. The people pay you well. Get to work. Harry Truman said, get to work. It's time to go to work. We got August, September, October. We may even have November, December, and January. We have until February 13th to get to work. So time is not a problem. Get to work on those bills, get to work on those ordinances. I have quite a few. You can go to the education ordinance and you could start seeing to it that Turks Island students get placed in school regardless of space. You could look at the ordinance that speak to corporal punishment and correct that. You could look at several other ordinances in this country. We can also look at a way to enforce these ordinances in this country. I have a lot of bills, and I ain't talking about Fortis bill either, and Lion bill. I'm talking about legislation bill that goes to Parliament and become law. You want to know why Turks and Caicos people ain't feeling this election vibe as yet? Because Turks Islanders want more. We don't want rhetoric. We want results. We want vision. We want to know deep down inside that the people that are coming to us asking for their vote, they're coming with a vision and a purpose to transform our country. It is time for transformational leadership in this country. It is time for us to take Turks and Caicos Island to the next level. So check out that job description. We got some good suggestions for you. Spend some time in your constituency. I noticed that politicians get nervous every time somebody mentions constituency allowance. It's not yours. It's called constituency allowance for a reason. When the government budget telephone allowance, it's for telephone. When they budget travel allowance, it's for travel. That allowance is for constituency. What have you done in your constituency? Hold your feet to the fire. You must give an account. The same way you are asking, you know the irony of it? Just the other day, that's a caller. Just the other day, they put persons through the Public Accounts Committee, questioning them about their spending, questioning them about how they are spending government's money. Now look at this hypocrisy in our democracy. They are putting public servants, former and present, through the ringer, questioning what you're doing with public funds, and they don't want to be asked what you're doing with public funds. If that ain't hypocrisy in our democracy, then tell me what it is. If you want to question the public servants on how they spend government money, then I have a right to question you on how you spend your allowance. That's a caller. Hello? I think we lost that caller. And we're winding down for time. I think I got 2 more minutes. Yes, question them. Constituency allowance. Work a 40-hour work week. Put in some time. Put in some time making a difference in this country. We've got to hold their feet to the fire. This is still the Patriot Hour. Hello, caller on the air. Hello? Hello, caller? Hello? We lost that caller. Sorry, caller. Keep trying. You have another minute to get through. I see my girl is in the house, and I'm so glad to see her, because I think if I stay in this studio for 2 more minutes, they may just deport me out of this country. But they wish they could, because they say if you're born there, you're born there. Tell them that you're born there. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm trying to sing up on this radio station today. That's Chrissy's job. But that's when you're filling in and you're in business inside this chair. I'm supposed to go off today. That's why you don't call men in to work on their day off, because they just get in trouble. All right? I just really want to call in. I hope they get through this time, because the time is winding down for the Patriot Hour. I'm about to be out of this studio. Yes. Duties and responsibilities. Hold them responsible for the job that they have been elected to do. Make them understand that you're expecting greatness from them. Elected members are not supposed to be ordinary. They're supposed to be extraordinary. I endorse that statement 100%. If we wanted to elect ordinary people, then everybody would sit in the House of Assembly. There's a reason why there's only 15 seats in there, or rather 19 seats in there, because if everybody could get a seat, we wouldn't need government. Turks and Caicos Islands, I appreciate you listening to the Patriot Hour. This has been well, I can't say impactful hour. I gotta wait to hear the feedback, but I did my best. Today was supposed to be my day off, but sometimes you can take a bullet for the team, and I'm a Patriot, and when you're a Patriot, you must answer the call of duty. Thank you. God bless you. Stay tuned next Thursday for Patriot Hour. God bless you. Have a good day. All I require for life, God has given me. Good morning this morning.
The TCI Patriots presents 4 for 40, a 4-part series that looks back at the last 40 years in the development of the Turks and Caicos Islands since the introduction of ministerial governance. Each Thursday for the month of August, guests on the Patriot Hour will reflect on each decade from 76 to 2016. which will culminate in a 2-hour special program on Tuesday, 30th of August, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., where a vision for the next 40 years will be discussed. So, keep it locked.
Lord, I love the sun and sea.